Hey guys, and welcome to this episode of the Happy Knitting Podcast. My name is Julia, and I am coming to you as every week from the south of Germany, from Munich. Today is Saturday, it's the 1st of February, and can we just say, thank goodness January is over. It's been a long year, as they say. Anyhow, I'm here to do another knitting podcast. I'm so glad if you're joining me for the very first time, then a big welcome to you. I did a bit of a reintroduction, I think it was last week, so you may want to go back and check that out if you kind of want to know more about who you're actually listening to. And of course, if you are coming back, thank you so much for being a regular viewer of the podcast. I'm recording this, and this is kind of getting old, but I don't have a whole ton of knitting progress. But I thought I'd show you what I have done, and I also brought along a couple of older finished objects because you may remember I like to do sort of like review videos every now and then. I did a series on different sock yarns, and I have done 2 sweater episodes, which if I'm really organized I will link them below, but if not, just go to my channel and check them out if you're interested. And you guys seem to really like that, so I just brought out 3 finished objects that I finished kind of recently to talk about how I'm liking them, how they're wearing, and all of that. So we'll have some stuff to talk about, and that should be today's episode. So before we get started, as every week, I don't have any show notes, but I have pretty good Ravelry project pages. So if you do have a question about what pattern did you use, and what is the name of that, and what is the name of the yarn, and all of that, you can always find that in my project pages, which I link under every video, and then you can just look through all of my finished objects and works in progress on Ravelry, and you can look up the yarns and all of that, and yeah, that should make it very easy. The sweater that I'm wearing today, this is actually one that I dug out this morning because today is the day when I'm going to clean out my closet once again, which I actually like doing, so it's not such a big deal. I actually like getting rid of clothes more than I like buying. This doesn't apply to knitwear, but anyways, so this morning I just found this cardigan that I haven't worn in probably at least a year, if not more. I remember wearing this the first time I was in Oslo, which was 2018, and I'm not even sure if I wore it ever since. So this was one of my very first color work garments that I've ever knit. This was, I think, my first stick. And it is, of course, the Dameyaka Lopa sweater, or the flea cardigan, which is by Piniguri. And I think I've knit 3 of them now, 2 or 3, I can't remember. And I want to knit another one because it's just such a fun pattern. It has a lot of like easy color work on the yoke, and then flea stitch, as you can see, all over the body, and then you stick it. And I kind of mixed up the colors, but I really do like it. I'm not sure why I don't wear it as much. It's kind of small on me now, I will be honest. I would knit it bigger if I were to knit it again. I probably have gained some weight over the last 2 years, which that happens. But I really like it, and I remember I knit this out of Drops Flora, which is a very affordable yarn. I think it's a wool and alpaca mix, but it's mostly like a really nice woolly yarn. And it's really soft, I really like it. It does have a bit of pilling happening, but it's not too bad. And I remember wearing this quite a lot when I first finished it, so I'm just so happy to have found this again and dug it out of my closet. And it's probably one of my softest colorwork garments that I've done, so I don't mind the rustic yarns, but this is nice. So that is what I'm wearing today. And now let's talk about some works in progress. All right, so I have two works in progress to share with you, and both of them I haven't made like a super interesting ton of progress, but I thought I'd just share them really quickly. So first up, I'm still working on my colorwork Cowl, which is based on the Le Massif scarf pattern by Espace Tricot. Oh my gosh, I can kind of switch between German and English in podcasts, but when you add French to it, it just doesn't work anymore. Anyways, Le Massif Cowl, as I'm calling it. So it is a scarf pattern, so you usually start with a ribbing at the bottom, and then you just knit the whole thing and finish it as a scarf, but I'm turning it into a cowl most likely, so I did a provisional cast on with a crochet hook. And so now I'm just knitting a very long tube because I want this to be a double wrap cowl. And then in the end, I can just put back my stitches from my provisional cast on, and I can either do like a 3-needle bind off or a Kitchener stitch or whatever. I will graft it together somehow. And this is where we are. So I mentioned last week I added another color, and now I'm just in this main repeat where you just do this flea stitch or lice stitch forever and ever. And this is where I was last week, where I have the stitch marker. So I just decided once I got bored to just switch up the colors. So I changed from the light gray to the pink. And I'm not sure if I'm going to have like a regular sort of color change thing here, if I'm just going to change colors whenever. I'm just playing with this project at the moment. It's just fun to knit a couple of rows every now and then. Obviously you don't need a chart for this portion of the cowl or scarf, whatever you decide to make it. So yeah, I've just added a couple of rounds to this. This is knit in Rauma Phenol Garn. This is Phenol PT2. The main color is colorway number 486. And I just have like little leftover skeins of the other colors, so unfortunately I can't tell you which colorways they are, but I just thought they go really nicely together, and I don't think I will have this finished for this winter, because even though it is supposed to get cold again next week, we are in February. By the time we get back from a holiday, it'll be almost March, so I'm not really counting on wearing this winter, because it'll be very, very, very warm. But it'll be a really good staple whenever it is done, and I'm just enjoying it. So that is that. I am using 3.5mm needles, I believe. I'm using wooden needles. Who would have thought? But yeah, I'm quite enjoying them. And then the other project that I have worked on, and funnily enough, it's a very similar color palette. I'm very much into like the olive greens and pinks at the moment, it seems. This is my pair of socks by, what's it called? Garnsur, which is the yarn made on hand dyed by refugee women from Norway, or in Norway, I should say. Which I talked about this plenty of times. Sadly, they are closing down. It is so sad. But I picked this yarn up in Oslo last year at the Oslo Stricker Festival, and I love it. So this is just the merino sock yarn. The first sock I was done last week, and last week I had just done like 3 rows of ribbing or something. So I am pretty much at the heel now for the second sock, so I'm happy to have made some progress. I just need to count the rows and see when I need to put in the heel. And once I get the heel turn, for me, that's a really important part. Like getting past the heel, and then it just usually goes pretty quickly. So I would like to finish this, who knows, I have 1 week to go before my holiday. Maybe I'll finish them before that. I mean, I have like a million whips, and I'm not really planning on taking many of them on the holiday. But this is doable, and yeah, as you can see, I'm working on less projects at the moment, but that means that I can actually get some kind of progress done. So yeah, I'm really enjoying it. These socks are going to be for me. I'm doing my usual 2.25mm needles, 64 stitches, and it's just a plain vanilla sock, as you can see. And I did a fish lips kiss heel for the first sock, which obviously I will do for the second one as well. Sometimes I say such unnecessary things, and it really cracks me up. Anyways, those are my works in progress. And like I said, I thought I would just show you a couple of things that I've been wearing and tell you about them. So first up is a pair of mittens that I finished pretty much just before Christmas. And these are the Speed Sheep mittens. It's a design by Ducati, who is a German designer, I believe, but this pattern is also out in English, and I bought this as a kit, so it came with this beautiful yarn, which is a German undyed merino yarn. And no, merino does not necessarily mean it's soft. It's a very sort of rustic yarn, and I love it. And I don't know, I think it was something like Aran weight. It's a really thick yarn. I use super thick needles, which to me, I didn't really enjoy the process because, as you know, I usually like to knit on tiny needles, and I rarely even knit with DK weight. I usually knit most of my things in like fingering and sport weight. But it was just a fun pattern to whip up. I really like the design. It's a lot of purling, I will say that, but it turned out really beautiful and I didn't really think I would wear them much. I thought I would only wear them maybe like in the snow, in the winter, when you go for a hike, but besides that, you may have noticed I don't really knit proper mittens because I need my fingers. I like having fingerless gloves and I can, pay for things and get things out of my bag and use my phone and fumble with my headphones when I'm out and about. So I didn't think that I would wear these much. And truth be told, I've been wearing them almost every day. Like I just have them in my coat pocket. They just live in my winter coat pocket and I wear them all the time. And I'm so happy with that. And they go really nicely both with the hat that I have, and you may remember I knit the shawl out of, I'm having a total blank right now. I knit a shawl out of like a natural colored singles yarn, like a Shetland yarn, the Kyler shawl by Isabel Kramer. It's coming back to me now, but I still can't remember the yarn company. Anyways, so I basically have unintentionally made a set of both a shawl, a pair of mittens, and also a hat that kind of go together. And I have this like dark burgundy coat, so it actually works together really well. So I just thought that was so interesting, and also these mittens, when I finished them, they just fit, but now with the garter stitch and just with wearing them, they've stretched out a little bit and they softened up a little bit, and they're just so comfortable to wear. I really, really enjoy them. So that was definitely a surprise for me because I knit them more for the fun of just knitting a quick project, and then I think I wasn't even sure if I was going to keep them or gift them, but yeah, I love them. So that was one finished object that I just thought deserved to be mentioned again. Next up, I thought I would show you again my Otra sweater. So those of you who've been watching for the last couple of weeks remember this sweater. This is the Otra sweater by Ellie, who is Skandir and designs under Skandir Knits, I believe. And I finished this quite recently. This is a top-down sweater. If you want to hear more about it, I talked all about it in the past episodes. And I've been wearing this non-stop. There's actually some hair on it, whoops. And for me, I don't know how you guys wear your knitwear, but for me, I usually have like 2 or 3, maybe 4 sweaters that I just wear all the time. Like I have them in heavy rotation, and then every now and then I just swap them out and find another one that I wear all the time. So my current favorite sweaters always get like a ton of wear. So I think I've worn this on and off for about 3 to 4 weeks, and I actually wear my hand knit sweaters a lot when I'm inside as well. So I try to, this is hard because Kai doesn't like the heating to be low, but I like to kind of not heat like crazy, but instead put on my sweaters. So I've been wearing this all the time, and I just wanted to show you how it wore. So you may remember this yarn is from Garnet Salk, which is a Danish company, and this is their Highland wool, which is just very similar in terms of yardage and color and the way it feels when you get it to Whole Super Soft or JC Rennie, these kinds of yarns. The reason why I like this one most compared to Super Soft, compared to JC Rennie, compared to all these yarns which are kind of similar, is the way that this yarn behaves after you've worn it. Not sure if you can tell, but it's a very, very beautiful fabric, and what it does is it just creates this little fuzz over the yarn or over the actual fabric, and not sure if you can tell on camera, but it is crazy soft, or at least I find it very soft considering, I mean, when I talk about soft, this is still a non-superwash rustic wool, so this is not your merino superwash yarn, but for what it is, it just becomes really soft and lovely, and I really, really enjoy it. And as you can see, I haven't finished this that long ago, so it didn't take very long, but the color work, like you can't really separate the stitches. It's not felted, but it kind of just turns into this beautiful fabric, and oh my gosh, I just love it. The downside that I definitely noticed with this sweater more than with my recent sweater out of the same yarn is it did pill quite a bit, which again, no surprise, and chances are if I go use like a cleaner or something once. I'm not sure if the pills will actually come back, but you can see here. Actually, it doesn't look too bad on the screen, but there's quite a bit of pilling here on the sleeves, which it's fine. I just didn't expect it because I didn't get that on my Emma yoke sweater, which I knit out of the same yarn, I think almost 2 years ago. But anyways, it doesn't really matter. I just thought it's so interesting how like garments, especially the garments that aren't out of superwash wool, how they change when you wear them. Like this yarn, I mean, I don't hate working with it, but it's not the nicest yarn to work with. Maybe similar to whole super soft. It's a nice yarn, but I don't love working with it. It's kind of crispy and thin, and I definitely prefer knitting with other yarns, but just knowing how it turns out after you've been like washing it and wearing it is just amazing. And I've only washed this once, so the effect of how it has changed, I think, is less due to washing and more just to wearing it, which, I don't know, I just love this stuff. It's super geeky, but I just thought it was worth sharing. And I remember making this design or knitting up this design, and I wasn't really sure if I was going to wear it. It's a little bit cropped, and it's the first yoke that I've ever done that's not a circular yoke, but kind of like a boxy shape, and then you use steek for the armholes. And I really didn't know how it would look on me. And also, I kind of miscalculated my gauge, so this turned out quite a bit. It turned out with less positive ease than I had originally planned for. So I really wasn't sure if it was going to be something that's very wearable for me, but it turns out it is absolutely wearable, and yeah, so I'm really positively surprised with this one as well. And then the last cardigan, you may be sick of hearing about it, but this is the thing that I wear almost every day at some point, even if it's just to have breakfast, before I get dressed, whatever. And this is, of course, my Ernest cardigan, which is a pattern by Johi Locatelli. I knit this out of another Norwegian yarn. I knit this out of Hillesvåg in their Sølje base. Is it Sølje or Vilje? I think it's Sølje. I looked it up before the podcast and then I forgot again. But like I said, Ernest Cardigan, Johi Locatelli, Hillesvåg, Sølje. And this is definitely a rustic yarn. Like it used to be very itchy to me, even to me who is not very sensitive. It is definitely softening up as well, but it is a different kind of beast to be dealing with. But luckily, I love it. I talked about in the past how much I love the fit. Like this is the first and only cardigan that I have that doesn't fall off my shoulders. Like Johi is just so good at making perfectly fitting garments. Like there are many garment designs out there, and sometimes they fit and sometimes they kind of fit, and sometimes they're less practical, but this one, it just sits on my shoulders beautifully, and I can like dress it up with a nice shirt underneath, or I can just chill out, of course, and have it be more casual. So I really love this. Kai, I think, is kind of sick of seeing me in this because he doesn't see me in anything else anymore. But again, what this yarn has done is it's become kind of fuzzy on top. So it doesn't have the greatest stitch definition, which I completely didn't mind. I knew this coming in, especially also with the fact that it's just a slightly like marled color. But I think with the cables, they still pop nicely, and yeah, I just wear it all the time. Again, it got a few pills. It always gets the pills for me under the arms, like the lower arms, which is kind of weird. It's a weird place to get pills. But all in all, I think also just due to the nature of the yarn that it's not like a single color, it's kind of marled, there's different colors in it, different shades of gray. It doesn't show up, like it doesn't really look that rugged or anything yet. And I mean, this has gotten the most wear probably of any garment that I've ever made. So I just thought it was worth showing again, not to sell you on any yarns, all of that, but just because I think it's interesting to not only like have works in progress and finished objects and then show them off and then to never see them again, but I mean, we make these things to ideally last us for a while, to, I don't know, I want my sweaters to last me for years and years, really. So I just think it's very interesting to look back on these garments and these items that we make and kind of reflect on how we like them. And the good thing is that I have like a crazy ton of the same yarn base in my stash, because I went completely batshit crazy when I was in Oslo, and Mina of the Knitting Expat completely kind of convinced me to get a gradient set of, I think, 7 or 8 skeins, dyed by Nina Petrina. And it's like this gradients set of purple shades, so I can make at least 2 sweaters out of that alone. So there are definitely going to be more of those kind of sweaters in my future, which is amazing, especially now that I know that I really like this yarn. So yeah, those are the garments that I thought I'd chat about with you today. I was also going to show you some socks, but all the socks that I wanted to show you need to be washed, and yeah, I will spare you that. So I think that's all of it for today. I don't have any more things to show you. I don't have any acquisitions, which frankly, that's a good thing. So I think all that's left to say is to wish you guys a great weekend. If you're watching this on the weekend, I hope you have so much time to spend with your knitting and your yarn, and maybe you have some inspiration, and maybe you do some new cast-ons. Who knows? I mean, you could do like a 1st of February cast-on. I will be back next weekend. Next weekend will be the last podcast episode before we go away, which, oh my gosh, I cannot wait. We actually went out this morning, and I've already started collecting things like sunscreen and all the summer things, and I'm just so excited for that. It feels kind of strange knowing that apparently I think it's even supposed to snow next week, so that's going to be a big sort of change from like snowy cold to very, very hot weather, but I'm looking forward to it. And yeah, so I will see you again next week before I go on to a bit of a break. Until then, I hope you have so much fun with your knitting. I will see you very soon. Thank you so much for watching. Bye!